Live from Radio Row, Mandalay Bay Convention Center, Las Vegas, time for Super Bowl 58. We're going to have some fun with this one. Donnie Rightside here with Charlie Batch. Charlie, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Fantastic. Let's have some fun with this because it's always good when you're at the Super Bowl to talk with a two-time Super Bowl champion. But before we get there, let's go back to Eastern Michigan. I love MAC football. Tell me how you got there at Eastern Michigan, how it went for you, and what it was like.
Yes, actually, it's so funny because Eastern Michigan was coming down. They had a coach that was recruiting our wide receiver by the name of Richard Walker.
Yeah.
And he's going through, and he's having a great day, and then the coach turns around and says, who's throwing the ball to that guy? Does he have any offers? And literally they were just like, hey, not many offers. And coach kept approaching me. He said, would you like to come up to visit Ypsilanti, Michigan? And I said, sure. Came up, had a great visit. They offered me on the spot, and then from there, the rest is history.
Well, the rest is history. And by the way, did you donate to help get that gray field up there?
I did.
Idea?
That wasn't mine.
When you were there?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was green, and that was something that for me, when I saw it, I was like, oh, pretty cool, because now hopefully you get a chance to now separate yourself. When people look at that field,
And by the way, when you were at Eastern Michigan, did you guys have MACtion during the week?
No.
Was that in there yet in the 90s?
No, there was not.
Wasn't?
But the television contracts weren't what they are because literally you had to win the MAC in order to go to a bowl game because in 1995, Miami of Ohio beat Northwestern.
Gotcha.
They finished the season because they lost one game in the MAC. They finished 10-1 and was home, and Northwestern played in the Rose Bowl that game.
How about that?
That was crazy.
Amazing stuff. Let's get through there. 1998, you get drafted into the NFL. Second-round draft pick of the Detroit Lions. What was it like on draft day for you, getting the nod and going so early in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, Detroit, they showed a lot of interest during that time. And I'm like, okay, there's a strong chance that I can go. I was back at home in my hometown, Pittsburgh, and literally getting to that point, all families there. Yeah. And at that time, they did everything the first day. Yeah. So it was a long first round. That was about 4 hours. And then from there, ended up seeing a 313 on my area code. I'm like, wow, I may have a chance. Actually, it was 248 at the time. So I saw that. Detroit's like, hey, we want to make you a Lion. How you feel about that? I said, I'm ecstatic. And at that point, all the family cheered, and we were ready to go.
Fantastic. Now, your time in Detroit, obviously before Ford Field, the resurgence that we're seeing now. Talk to me about your time in Detroit, because was it 3 or 4 years that you played with them?
Yeah, it was 4 years I played in Detroit. We played at the Silverdome. So at the time, they were getting ready to start construction of the new field. Yeah. And at that particular point, I thought I was going to be there and be part of it. And ultimately, that didn't happen. I was released after the 2001 season, ended up going to Pittsburgh in 2002. But Detroit's first home game, the preseason game, was against the Steelers. So
there you go.
I had an opportunity to be a part of the opening of Ford Field. So it was exciting to see everything that they're going through.
Now, with Detroit now, obviously connection there, played there. It's awesome to see what's going on in Detroit. Those fans were so starved for a victory, and they finally get to the playoffs this year. Do you have any ties still or have any connections to that organization?
Yeah, many of them are gone. This is my 24th season away from them, so it's hard. Some people have retired and moved on in different spaces. So they're doing a really good job of tying the alumni in. So I appreciate everybody up there that really has tied their alumni into it and keeping us a part of it.
Now let's get to the Pittsburgh Steelers years. That's where you put 2 rings. Now, do you still sport those rings at times?
I do sport them.
Flash them around?
Absolutely.
Now, also, you had 2 different head coaches for those, and that's what we want to talk about. We talk about Kyle Shanahan also in the Super Bowl this year, as well as Andy Reid. 2 different styles technically. Talk to me about Bill Cowher and being in Pittsburgh for his regime.
Yeah, I mean, growing up a fan of him, he was announced the coach early 90s, and I'm like, okay, wow, and having the opportunity to see him. And I said, man, if I had ever opportunity to play for him, of course I would do that. Yeah. And, having the opportunity to play for him his last 5 years, it was just one of those, a seasoned vet, understanding he trying to get over the hump to win that Super Bowl. And when we finally got to that point, it was truly amazing because he worked so hard to get there. But, of course, the chin, you didn't see it all the time, right?
No.
But it was, again, he was a seasoned vet, and you could tell, that man, he really had a weight lifted off his shoulder by winning that Super Bowl.
Steps away, Mike Tomlin comes in. One of the more dynamic runs you're ever going to see. Super Bowl championship, as well as never having a losing season. Talk about the dynamics of going from Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin. Was there a huge change, training camp-wise, season-wise, preparation?
Yeah, it wasn't a huge change only because the veterans were still around, right? Yeah. So a lot of our guys, we policed each other, and it's just a matter of what the message that was going to go from Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin. But to both of those guys' credit, they're both great communicators. The clear, concise guys are going to buy into the messaging. That's why you see it currently to this particular point. So having the opportunity to play with Cowher for his last 5 years, then play with Tomlin for 6, it was great to see the evolution of where he is, and he has stayed the course and obviously continue to understand how to pivot and build relationship with these younger players so they continue to buy the message.
Now, when we talk about those 2 coaches, because you won Super Bowls under each each one of those coaches. Some of the things we talk about heading into Super Bowl week, teams that haven't been there before, or maybe new coaches. Kyle Shanahan's been there before, so has Andy Reid. Tell me about how it was handled under Bill Cowher Super Bowl week compared to Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, it was a little different because, we still had a veteran. When Cowher was there, a lot of our players never went to a Super Bowl, so we were all learning it at the same time.
Yeah.
So you talk about, making sure all business is handled before you get to Super Bowl week.
Yeah.
Here, focus on what's the task at hand, understanding, hey, games to be played on Sunday.
Yeah.
You win the game, guess what? We're celebrating for the next 6 months for victory. And at that particular point, talking about just to change the schedule. Pre-game is a little longer, 2 extra hours. Halftime's a few minutes longer than what you typically would have. So just taking you through that process so you don't burn yourself out but still ready to play the game. Where Tomlin did it, the veteran guys were already there. So now we're teaching the young players everything that they're getting ready to go through, and just to watch everybody and the whole evolution of that happening. It was truly great to be able to win Super Bowl 40 and Super Bowl 43.
Now, coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers, you were a veteran here. Ben Roethlisberger comes in as the young guy. Talking about the maturation process for Ben Roethlisberger and the process getting him ready, because as we know, it doesn't just take the starting quarterback. You need a strong quarterback room getting him through. How was Big Ben in the evolution of when he began to what we saw as a Hall of Fame career?
Right, and I think when you look at it at the beginning stage, we're all young and dumb, right? You're just like, man, I'm just trying to go play. And you're just, all the other distractions, people are going to keep that away from you. But Ben did a great job of just listening and trying to say, okay, what can I do to get better? Because ultimately it was going to help the team. So going through that Super Bowl run, we all know that we're trying to win that one for Jerome. And as Jerome bet has hosted that Lombardi Trophy. And then you ultimately get to that point, and he's a lot more relaxed going into Super Bowl 43 and just wanting the opportunity to go out there and perform. And ultimately, man, if it wasn't for James Harrison's interception, maybe he's the MVP, or maybe Santonio Holmes is not. So we had 3 guys to choose from in that particular manner.
By the way, what's it like just to be in the Super Bowl? Because the things that we always talk about are like the pomp and circumstance around it, but you players got to be insulated. Like in Las Vegas, they're not out at the casinos. They're tucked away knowing it's a business trip here. But being on the field and watching that unbelievable play by Harrison, as you brought up, and also Santonio Holmes in the corner of the end zone. Talk about maybe the preparation during the game, like how you approach it being in the locker room there, and the extended halftime and what goes on at that point.
Yeah, from there you go to that point where you're like, at the beginning of the game, you're like, okay, everybody's excited, ready to go, trying to tame the emotions of everything. And as the game gets started, you just say, hey, man, we're here to play ball. We're for 60 minutes, and we're trying to walk out of here a Super Bowl champion. And I think ultimately when you go through that, the manner of the interception right before the half, and we're celebrating, calming yourself down, getting ready to now go into the second half and making sure that we can go out there, focus on the task at hand, which we dominated the game all game until Larry Fitzgerald runs 60 yards for a touchdown, and we're losing. And now Ben has to go out there and do what he always has done. 2-minute drill to go out there and win a game. What a beautiful drive that he put together. If Santonio catches the pass beforehand, the play before the actual toe tap, Ben Roethlisberger is the MVP of the Super Bowl. But not, throws the pass, and guess what? We're all winning it. And it was just great to be able to do that because you have a new group of guys all trying to celebrate that particular moment.
Now, let's put you on the spot here. Super Bowl 58, Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers. Charlie Batch, put on your GM helmet today. Who's winning that football game?
Well, for me, I'm going with Patrick Mahomes, and the reason why I do that is because, man, veteran quarterback, he understands you're taking everybody around, and I think where he's at in his career, even though he doesn't want to talk about the Tom Brady record, but I promise you, as the competitor, he wants to break that record, and that's why he made the comment. I'm not even halfway to getting to Tom. Guess what? If you win this one, you're almost halfway.
Exactly.
So these are things that are going to happen. Nothing against San Francisco. I just look at it, both teams, experience-wise, but I think when it comes down to the quarterback, I'm going with the experienced guy versus the young guy. Not to say Brock Purdy can't do it, because I did see him in week 1 against the Steelers put on a performance, and they whooped the Steelers' tail in week 1. But here he is now. I just think when it comes down to it, Kansas City defense makes one play to get them an extra series in this game, and that's going to be the difference with Patrick Mahomes going down and winning this ball game.
Kansas City Chiefs, another Super Bowl ahead there, looks like possibly for Patrick Mahomes. Now, we know you do big things in the community, Charlie. Let the people know where they can find you and what you've been doing.
Yeah, so we have foundation, family foundation, which is called Best of the Batch Foundation. And we are an educational foundation, and we focus on after school and our STEAM programs. We say STEAM instead of STEM because we include the A for arts.
Gotcha.
And right now we have 13 different programs that we run. We service 3,800 kids annually in 9 counties throughout southwestern PA. So we just expanded. We went from 5,300 square feet to 33,000 square feet. So now our numbers are going to increase to over 6,000 kids annually. So we're excited but yet nervous at the same time, but we're ready to go because this is what the next 20 years of our foundation looks like. So we're excited. So if anybody wants to learn more about what we're doing, they can go to batchfoundation.org. You'll be able to see everything that we do throughout the calendar year.
Fantastic. 2-time Super Bowl Bowl champion right here on Radio Row, live from Las Vegas. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.